green dogs, blue dogs, or conventional implants, zirconia implants, titanium implants, whatever you are looking at, see how much you find. Usually, such general terms, you find too much. And then people think about the PICO questions. We'll come there later again too. But like I said, these things are the process, keep repeating themselves. So we can start with the things that I mentioned later here too. If it's too much, define your question. That's using the filters. I think we talked about it, just 10 years or just clinical studies. I don't recommend it very much, at least not at this point, because it won't help you decide if there are possibilities to write about it. Add outcome parameters. Add outcome parameters which you think might be helpful. The success rate, the loss rate, and you can find it by identifying it even more. Success rate plus success rate for what? Mobilization, complication. One thing, if you limit yourself to controlled clinical studies, we've said they're considered to be the best papers for the evidence-based medicine because they are the most controlled. The thing is, you cannot look at everything using controlled clinical studies. We covered that, I hope, at least I hope we did. For instance, if you want to look at complications, can you imagine a controlled clinical study that observes which complications can occur? Even if you could think of one, you will probably run into ethical problems. So basically things like that, for instance, are observational studies. Meaning, if you don't want a complication rate or more information about that, you will never find it here. But probably with another study type. That's one of the reasons why it's dangerous, limiting yourself to controlled studies only. Oh, it's backward. I hate this. Now, once you have an overview like this, you have a good idea of what is written in the paper, how much there is. It'll give you an idea of what to talk about. And based on that, as for the pancreatitis thing, you can say, okay, what's the aim in this? I want to find out if the new green dogs are really a viable substitute for the blue dog breed. That's your general initial question. Now, how to do this? To this end, I want to look at the relative success rate, providing companionship and using mobilization. I want to check if there are breed-specific factors that might counterindicate it, and to check that, the focus here will be dog loss in different situations. That means I have a general question and a specific area I want to look at. Try phrasing such things. It's my hobby. Now, that's your thesis question. That's already part of the outline. I just mentioned it first because it's really the most important part. You have to get right and straight first. If you don't really have this in hand, it's difficult to write. Now about the outline, it's a plan of the thesis. No? Better, more complete. The plan is before you start the writing process. The easier it will be for you to write. It's a plan, so it'll be short, few pages only, and it should contain what is listed here. Yes, the title, obviously, the rationale, background. It's not absolutely necessary, but can be quite helpful for you. Objective and research questions. We'll get to these later. Yes, definitely. The search history. How have you searched up to now? How much did you find? Yes, definitely. The provisionary structure of your results part. Now it sounds like I haven't written anything. How can I already write my index? Yes, definitely do it at the beginning, because that means you build the plan for the thesis. You just have to fill things out, and then you see what you need to write about. And of course, the list of the literature to be used in the thesis. So get to the detail moment. Like I said, yeah, it is really, really an important step, because before you start writing, yes, you clarify your goal. You think it through. How can I achieve my goal? You can make a plan how you want to achieve this goal. I do this first, this second, this next. And also very important, you can make certain that there is enough literature out there for you to actually answer the research questions. Meaning, plan first, write later. Always works. I keep getting the wrong button here. Now, outlines differ, depends sometimes what people want to see. You'll see different examples. What we'd like to see usually, and what will work in a general way, is an outline that contains these key points. That were just mentioned: justification, objective, questions, strategy, and results. I've already talked, about the objective. Search strategy we already covered in a previous lesson. List of literature. It's hard to find, but otherwise kind of obvious what's meant by this. So that leaves the research questions and the result structure. Talk about that a little bit. You'll remember this one. That's a slide which I already showed. Yeah? 1 or 2 sentences, helps phrase it as a question, and the important thing is this one, the objective can then be divided into sub-questions. These sub-questions, which should be typical questions, at least for several of them, these sub-questions are the research questions. Now, there's basically 3 different types of these research questions. Background. If you ask after background for zirconia and titanium, that might be what are the material properties of zirconia and titanium? What's what? One is a metal, one is a ceramic. What does this mean? What is known about it? Background. You can ask that as a research question. Then there are discussion questions, where really you ask questions which you will later answer in the discussion. Like, for instance, is zirconia really as good as titanium in specific situations, or just specific questions you'd like to discuss? Now, the most important questions, research questions, this one, number 2, foreground questions, data questions. These are the questions you phrase so you are able to search the literature to get the actual data for your results part. Now, if you're asked to write such questions, you can write background questions. You don't have to. You can write discussion questions. You don't have to. But you definitely have to write data questions. Maybe around 3 or something like that. These data questions, these are quite often summarized PICO questions. They're asking after concrete data which you will use in your results part. So, as an example, perhaps we don't have to read the part up. This is the green dog example. Again, what might possible research questions be? These are examples for what they are not to be really. What is the best dog? That's an extremely vague and general question. Research question should be specific. Ask after specific information. So that won't work. Second one, green dogs, Dutch strain, children younger than 2. That's actually, it's a searchable question. The problem here is it's very specific. So you probably will not find enough data for it. That wouldn't be a problem if it hadn't been said these research questions should cover the 2, 3, or 4 most important points for your thesis. That is probably not, might be an interesting point, but it's definitely not the most important point. It'll cover the most important ones. Last one, how does the presence of other pets influence dog behavior? If you read through the objective, never mentioned anywhere. So that also common mistake, questions not covered by the objective. Only what's in here goes into the questions. Too vague, too specific, not covered by objective. So, what are viable questions? For the background? Yeah, sure. What's the object you're comparing? Object of your comparison. What are the characteristics and common indications of 2 different implant types, 2 different dog types, 2 different surgical methods? Background. What does the reader have to know to really understand what you hear later? Like I said, not a necessary question. But if you've never written something like that before, it sometimes helps if you write this out first. First, what background knowledge do I have to have? What has to appear in the thesis? Then, what's the exact data? Then, if you like, what will I discuss in the discussion? can later always delete the other questions, just delete the most important ones, but it'll help you organize it in your mind. Yeah. Define basis of your analysis. Data questions, and you would go back and here say what are the outcome parameters I really wanted to look at. I wanted to look at success rate for mobilization, and of course I want to know if there are differences